project. Last time we did projects 3 to 4 here, which was just installing Splunk and importing data. So at the end of this project, you get Splunk running, and when you look at the data, you'll find 3 kinds of data in there. Let me get to there we are. Here you'll find 3 fields, each with thousands of records. So let's check and make sure that's working. Here's the one I installed last week in class. And let me move it up to where people will see it. All right. And here's Splunk. And by the way, to launch Splunk, let me just do that. So after you've installed Splunk on Windows, what I did to start it is I just searched for Splunk. This is Windows 11, but I think, and you'll see there is a shortcut created in the All Programs menu somewhere called Splunk Enterprise. And if you double click it, it will just launch a web browser and go to the page for Splunk, which is 127.001:8080, followed by some stuff, because Splunk automatically starts when your system starts, and it starts listening on port 8080. So there we are. And now that I'm in Splunk, the first time I started it today, it made me log in with the name and password I chose. It seems to be remembering that now. And so you go to Search and Reporting, which is the only thing we're going to use in this class. And, all right, well, that should be loading. What's going on here? Okay, I see a question. How can we get information? What if I want to make for myself? I'm not quite sure what you mean. I think you might mean how do you monitor events? And you connect Splunk to data sources by putting forwarders on them. And I don't know exactly how to do it. I don't have any hands-on projects where you do that. That would be nice. Technically, that's in the next course. You know, this may be not entirely obvious, but the way all these products work, a beginner at your company will use the product already configured. In configuring it is something done by more advanced people. So beginners use a product. Configure it, setting it up is more something, a more advanced thing. All right, yeah, I see someone else wants help on Zoom. Yep, that's good. I'm sure that'll come up. Everyone needs help. So here's data summary. That's where I go to make sure that the data is in there. And so it's waiting. Okay, now you see I do have 3 types of data with thousands of events, and that's what I should have. We imported 3 files, and each one of them had thousands of events, so we're ready to go. All right, so now I want to look at the project for the next one to demonstrate your projects 5 and 6. That's Module 5 and Module 6. Now, these pages I wrote do not tell you how to do the project. They just tell you what page to turn in. The actual project is here, up here in the class materials, which we talked about before. It's a PDF file that came from Splunk. And so here's the project for number 5, which is Module 5. All right. So it's a PDF file here with a bunch of instructions in this corporate sort of format with terms and stuff. All right, so here's the 3 data files we put in: Access combined with Cookie, Database Audit, and Linux Secure. Those are the 3 things you imported last time. And now you can do various searches with these things. So you say search for fail star and password over all time. So let's do that. I'm just going to move this document over to my other screen so I can refer to it as we go. I'm just going to follow the steps in that. So let me get back to my Splunk, which is here. Okay, so fail star. Get this. Okay, fail star or password, and password. And the and has to be capital. All right, and I can't see it very well. I'm going to try and zoom in. I wonder if Control Plus works. It does, good. All right, so fail star and password. And not for the last 24 hours, but for all time. By the way, one thing I should mention, which happened to a student, is there is another all time I never noticed. They were using this one over here. Don't use that one. Real time will look for real streaming events being measured right now, and there are none of them in our database, so you won't find anything. This is the all time to use. That will look at historical events. So now I'm doing that over all time, and I would like to click the button, but I can't figure out how to scroll horizontally, so I will have to shrink down a bit. There we are. All right.
So what we're searching right now, so fail, I remember the asterisk meant that it was,
Any text. So like failure or fails or anything like that.
oh, okay. And then with the and passwords, any fields that have password in it as well?
Yes. So what it does, I'm glad you asked this. If you look at the event here, it's sort of formatted. If you expand it here, you can see more details of the event, and there's also an option to see it in raw form. And let's do that. That's up here. No, it's this. There, raw. If we look at it in raw form, you'll see the event just the way it is. And here you go. This is the event. And so what it does is it just looks, if you don't give it field name equals value, it just does what Google would. It just looks for this string right here. So it just matches this whole string. It contains the word password. So that's why it's here. And it would also be here if it contained any word starting with fail. So this is here because it contained password. There's also fail. But we didn't make it contain both of those. Oh, we did. Failed and password. Okay. So here, because it has fail star and password matches, just like Google. That's what this query does. Good. And by the way, let me check and see if I got more questions from the online people. Okay, good. Nothing new right now. Good. Hey, can you please remind us of the login credentials for Splunk? You chose them when you installed Splunk. I did, however, have a recommendation here. When you installed Splunk, I recommended admin and piat ssw0rd. So hopefully this is what you used, but it's whatever you put in when you installed Splunk. If you forgot it, the simplest thing is just reinstall Splunk. But, yep, good, good. All right, so let me go back to the default format, which is list here, which is usually the way you want it, where it tries to format this, and you can actually expand it here and see the field. Let's see, I got to get this thing to scroll less. All right, now you can see the fields it found, like a source type and a time and Splunk server and so on. Not very much in this event, but other events have a lot more information in them. All right, and let me go back to my instructions and see what to do next. All right, so that's the original one. Now, we would like to see not just every failed login, but failed logins over SSH. And SSH uses port 22. And you can see this one is using port 4411. So I don't want that event. I want port 22. So one way to do it is to just add a 22 here. If you put more than one word on the line and you don't specify and or, it will default to or, I think. So if I go here, now I'm down to 35,000 events. And if I take a look at them down here, this one is still port 4411 because there's a 22 there, 223. And this is the problem with just putting a word right there without telling it field equals value. This line contains a 22. Now, it's not port 22, but it has a 22. So it would be better to use port 22. So let's do that. So I don't get those events that refer to other things. So I'm going to put in quotes, port 22. Now it'll have to have exactly that string, port 22. And I had, what, 44,000? Now I'm down to 37,000. And now I'm seeing failed password, port 22, failed password, port 22. Okay, that's cool. Now, see, there's a lot of login failures, thousands of them. All right, and now we can use the timeline. And you see here, there just seems to be no pattern here. There seems to be just a certain number of login failures every day. So 1,000 login failures every day seems to be normal for this network. And there doesn't seem to be any pattern where there's a ton of them on one day, which is what you would see if there was an attack where someone was trying to brute force a password or something. So this just looks like whatever's normal for this network. And we can also filter it further. If you go to the username, this is failed password for invalid user help desk. If you click on help desk, you can now add that to the search. We can find out who's logging in with the name help desk. How often did that happen? And that will just automatically add it up here. You see it just added help desk to the search. And now I'm down to 384 events. So if I wanted to find out the details of that one person, that's one easy way to do it. And when I'm done and I want to go back to generic one, I can click this and remove from search. And of course, you can do it all by just typing the right queries up here, but this graphical environment makes it easier. All right, so that's how you filter by specific field and back. And now we're going to save this job. So if this job was interesting, we'd want to examine it, and you'll see a jobs menu here. Everything you do is a job, and you can edit the job settings. By default, jobs are only last for 10 minutes and then they're deleted. But if you want to share it with people, you could share it with everyone and make it last 7 days. And then anybody could view these results. When they do, it will not run the query again. It'll show you the old results. And all right, so you can extend the lifetime and then hit save. That will save this job for 7 days. And now I can view my list of job entries from activity at the top, which is here, activity, jobs. And in here I can see various jobs. And here's the job I just made. I'm logged in as admin, and I created it on January 28. It's going to last for 7 days. And here's what it is. Fail star and password port 22. And by the way, that's the end of this project. That's right, it's really pretty simple. That's the screen to turn in. If you go look at my page for module 3, that's all this tells you. That is the screen to turn in, where we expect to see, oh wait, not this one, module 5. All right. And that's it. That's the screen to turn in with this fail and password port 22 stuff and these dates 7 days apart. So that's all. That's it for that one. Don't you need the and in there? I'm not sure. You would need the and to force it to have and port 22, but in that, that's a good question. I think it's somewhere in the documents. Let me just check this, because I'm not sure I said the right thing. If you put 2 fields in Splunk, well, let's try it experimentally. I'm not sure if Splunk defaults to an and or an or, so let's find out. This is easy enough to find out. If I go back to the main search, which I can get to by going home, and then search and reporting. Let's get this straight whether it's and or. So I'm going to search for 22 for all time. Okay. If I search for 22, there are, I'm trying to see how many there are. Okay, there are 68,000 of those. 65,000, I guess. And if I search for 22 and fail star, that'll, if I spell fail with only one F, that will go up if it's an or, and it will go down if it's an and. So let's find out. I had 65,000, and now I have 28,000. So by default, it's and. So if you put in 2 words, they must both be there, 22 and fail star. Okay, so if you don't put in an and, it implies and I can prove that. This is 38,000, is it? 39,000, okay. 39,000. If I put in the and explicitly, we can find out and this should have no effect. 39,000. Yep, still 39,000, but if I put in or, it should be something bigger. Make it capital so it turns orange. That was 39,000, and now it should be some bigger number. Yep, 75,000. Okay, so good. If you don't put, the default is and rather than or. Now, I'm glad you asked that question to make sure you get it straight. All right, so let's try the next one. Actually, these hands-on modules from Splunk are really very simple. And so let me get the next one, which is module 6, I think. And I get it from here. Yeah, module 6. All right. So again, it looks like this. And all of them use the same database you've imported. And we're going to just do a few exercises using fields in searches. So let me put it here. All right, so the first thing we do is search. And we're going to search for a long string they give me here. Now, I'm going to set it up in a few stages. They have a long query to run. But the first thing in their query is source type equals access combined with cookie. And I want to get that the easier way. I want to roll to the top and go to the default search page. because I don't feel like typing access combined with cookie. I'm going to do it from the data summary.
Can you search for location like from China?
You could search for the word China, and then it would give you any answer that had the word China in it. But many fields, if they're from China, they would just have an IP address from China, and you would have to make a table of all the Chinese IP addresses and match it, or give it an IP address range. And there are ways to put incidental tables to look up things like that.
How do you make a range?
What's that?
How do you make an IP address a range?
Make it red?
Range.
Range.
You just
Range.
mentioned
Make it
IP address.
rest?
Range.
Range.
Range, right. There's two ways. If you want all the IP addresses starting with 10, for example, you could do 10 dot star dot star dot star. That would be one way to do it. Yeah, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, this is a very good question. If you want to geolocate something, you'd have to have a secondary table for things like zip codes or IP addresses, and that does come up later in the course. It's a good question. All right, so anyway, I wanted to restrict this by access combined with cookie. So I want to look at the source types, and there it is, access combined with cookie. So when I click that, now I've got the first part of this query, a source type equals access combined with cookie. Now they also wanted index equals main. We are not really using indexes, but in an enterprise environment, you have indexes. You sort your data into, like indexes is my San Francisco location and a separate index for my Chicago location or something like that. So you would, to make your queries faster, you would limit them by index. In this case, everything's just in the main index. But in an enterprise, you would have a series of indexes, and you restrict your query to say which one it is. So far, all I've got is all the events from that source, and so if I search that over all time, I'm going to get some large number of events, like 74,000 or something, right? Because it's the same thing as we imported it. So it's going to be something in the tens of thousands. All right, 131,000 events. Now, they wanted me then to do action equals purchase, and let me do that the way I'd really do it in practice. I would look down here for interesting fields, and I see something called action. And there's 5 possible values, so that would help narrow things down. So if I click on that, it will show me the values. Purchase, add to cart, view, change quantity, and remove. And they want me to look at purchase, so I'll just click on here for purchase, and I'll have 19,000 events there. So that's the list of all the purchase events in that data, in that source file. And okay, so I've done that. And now they want me to verify that this query was done in smart mode. Here's the different modes. I never find much difference between these modes, but let's take a look at them. That's smart mode. If I did fast mode, I get very much the same answer. I really don't know why they make a big deal about this. Verbose mode. I think it just shows a little bit different information here. It really doesn't, I never have really cared very much about this, but in the training materials, they do talk a lot about those different modes. I don't see much difference in it. Anyway, so, all right, now I want to find product ID. So I found the purchase items, and I want to find the product ID here. So if I scroll down, there it is, product ID. There are 18 product IDs. So I click that, I see the top 10 here, and I want to find product ID, yeah, let me get my, okay, I want to find, all right, I'm just going to look at that one. The problem is, this is not easy to use because I just have these somewhat meaningless numbers. So let's see if there's something else easier to use, and they say try status. So let's find status. There's 9 different values of status. And here, this looks like an HTTP status code. 200 is success, 400 is an error, 500 is a different error. So that's interesting. And so 200 means anything other than 200 means the customer did not succeed. Their request ended in an error. So to quickly view the status, I can make it selected. So I can say yes to make this selected, because that's important to me. And now I don't have to dig through this long list. Now it will be up here in the short list. Status. Right there. Okay, that's one thing you can do. And the next thing I think we want to do is find all the errors. So status, click the value at the highest number. Okay, so let's go back. Now we can go to status here, which we think is important. All right, and 200 is the most common one. So, right, so if I click this, it's going to switch to status 200. And now I have 17,000 events, and these are all the ones that succeeded. But what I want is the ones that did not succeed, because those are the errors that maybe I need to fix something about the web page. I want to understand why so many customers are not being able to buy things. So I just put an exclamation point in here to make that not equal. And now I'll get the errors. And there's 1,301 of them. And these are the attempts to buy something that failed, or somebody tried to purchase it and they failed. And we should find 1,301 of these. And let me mention, this is a good way to tell if you're succeeding. When you look at the Splunk, it'll tell you, like in red, you're supposed to see this number, 1,301. That means you're doing it right. When you see that you found 1,301 events, you're doing the right thing. All right, so now I want to click status again and put no for selected. Okay, I'm just following their instructions. And not that it makes a lot of sense, but they're just practicing using these. So now it will not be in the selected list, but it's still present in my query. And click the X to close the window, right? Click the search to clear the search results. Okay, click the search link. This is one thing I do not know how to do. Click the search link in the Splunk bar to clear the search results. Up here, okay, that's good. That's a faster way to get a clear search result than the way I did it, which was to go there and back. All right, good. Now, we're going to use search history to view the past search history, which is here. Okay. And there's the one I just did with that status not equal to 200. All right. You only see your search criteria, which are saved for a long time. Okay. Inside the search history, we can filter for purchase. And then it will show me queries that have the word purchase in them. So I can repeat a query I've done before. And, all right, for one of the searches, click Add to Search. So I can take this one, like the one I just did, and add to search, and it will put it up here. So if I want to repeat that search, I could, or if I want to start from that search and modify it, that's an easy way to pick up where you left off. All right. And, all right, now in the Splunk bar, we're going to click, they wanted me to run this search, so let's change this to all time and run it. All right, and then in the Splunk bar, click Activity Jobs. And there's the job I just ran with this long query ending in purchase status not equal, or status not equal to 200. All right. Look at the search string to see if there are any keystroke mistakes. All right, and there might be ones here that are loaded with errors and such. All right. Now, that's it for that one, and they just need to find out what to turn in. So let's go to my instructions to show you what to turn in Canvas. So this is Module 6, and you go through the Splunk course, and this is what you turn in. So it is the step 15, when you're viewing a search history for purchase. So that's what I just had a minute ago. So the screenshot to turn in was this one. Let's go back home, which, can I get to the top? All right, there's probably some smarter way, but this is the easiest way I know to go home. Click that and search and reporting. And then we went to search history, which was here. Here I say, there we are. And then filtered by purchase. So we have only, that was the screen to turn in, showing a few searches containing the word purchase. It just shows that you've done this module. So like I say, this is pretty simple stuff. It's 1 unit course, only 6 weeks long. It's not supposed to be very difficult. And it does get you to the first level of Splunk certification as of a few years ago, although the Splunk certification program is changing. All right, so that's it for that demo. Let me stop this recording. And